DJ Payne 1.
Yo, what is happening, everybody? Welcome on into the Space Cowboy Show. I am your host, Ricardo, and we got another Cowboys game upcoming. This time, the Cowboys go on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers in a 1 o'clock showdown where the Cowboys are hoping to get above 500 for the first time this season and start a little win streak, right? The Cowboys haven't stacked wins so far this year. I think it's time that they start to do that, especially given with what's going on throughout the rest of the NFC and specifically the NFC East. We're going to get into all that in today's live stream / show. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. It's free and easy to do, helps the channel out a lot. If you are new here on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on new content when it comes out. If you want to support the channel further, you can hit the join button and you can become a member there. Also, you can head to check out the other Kretschman Media shows on the network, hitting the channel icon, and I'll show you all the channels there. Then, if you're on the Twitter / X side of things, just hit the like or favor, whatever they call it nowadays, retweet it, repost it, whatever they call it, follow, and if you want to follow the YouTube channel, you can go on the link there. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive straight into this matchup. So, the Dallas Cowboys, they are traveling to Carolina, take on the Panthers, and the Cowboys. I was looking at the over/under and the odds. They are a 3.5-point favorite going into this game. And as for the over/under, it's 49.5. Now, I'm not particularly shocked the Cowboys are favored in this matchup. They've had one of the better offenses, if not the best offense in all of football, especially with an MVP candidate, with Dak Prescott, with how he's been performing. So there's a lot of things going right for these Cowboys offensively. Defensively has been their struggle. We kind of saw them settle in. We don't know if it's more so the Jets just being a really terrible team or the Cowboys finding to turn a corner. But at the end of the day, you have to celebrate the small wins. And I think that the Cowboys, I understand they gave up 15 points at the tail end of the game, but the fact of the matter is that they held their own, which was what was important. But Going into Carolina, you look at this matchup against the Panthers. I was looking at their season so far and their, players, see how things are going. They're undefeated at home so far. They're 2-3. And the losses, aside from the Cardinals game, they've pretty much been dominated. They went on the road to New England. They lost 42-13. They went on the road to Jacksonville at the beginning of the year. They lost 26-10. They did beat the Falcons by 30-0, so shutting them out there. And they recently had this Miami game where they came back down 17 points, I believe it was. And Rico Dowdle had an amazing game for them. And he has put some bulletin board material out there basically saying like, oh, they got to buckle up, blah, 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 blah. Again, Cowboys got to take care of business. And, I know Brian Schottenheimer said a couple things, nothing too crazy. Like, hey, this is how it's going to be. Dak giving a dad joke about like, yeah, of course, that's how we're going to get there to buckle up. But looking at the Panthers side of things, right? Rico Dowdle, aside from that massive 205, if I have that correct, so let me just make sure because I don't want to give you guys inaccurate information. Yes, okay, so I was just double checking that because, see, people want to talk about that Rico Dowdle has been a threat this year. He currently has 289 rushing yards on the season, and if we really want to look further into that, you look at his past 5 games. Of course, you have the big game, 23 carries, 206 yards, and a touchdown. He had a 53-yard run, averaging 9 point yards per carry. But when you really look deeper into how Rico's been doing this year, he hasn't been as productive as people think he's been. Because again, if you're not paying attention over there, which I don't care how many people want to spin it, no one's really caring about what's going on in Carolina unless you're a Panthers fan. Sorry. You have 9 carries, 32 yards. 10 carries, 30 yards, 6 carries, 9 yards, 3 carries, 12 yards. Now, that doesn't mean that Rico can't have a productive day against the Dallas Cowboys. But what I am saying is that he hasn't been as productive as he thinks. He has the one big game, and if you subtract that, he's basically had 70 yards plus through 5 or 4 games, excuse me. That's not really productive. It's not like he's been Javonte Williams. We're like, yeah, he's not having 100 yards every single game, but he's having an impact. Javonte Williams has been exactly what the Dallas Cowboys have been wanting in a running back. And I think that it's insane for Rico to put bulletin board material up, considering the fact that his team could be, it was staring down the barrel of a 1-4 start, barring the Dolphins' epic collapse and losing that game. But one of the key things for the Cowboys is that looking at this Panthers team, I think that the one thing that we kind of started to see a little bit was Bryce Young get going in some of these games. He has been sacked 9 times so far, and on top of that, he's thrown 4 interceptions. He hasn't looked good so far. Not like horrible, but he hasn't been the number 1 overall pick that you've been wanting to see since the Panthers had drafted him. Their rush attack, you do have Chuba Hubbard, 217 yards, 53 carries. So, and then him and Rico have pretty much been splitting that. But again, I don't want people to look at the 289 yards that Rico has and says, like, wow, he's averaging 5.7 yards per carry. He's really, really good. He has had only one real big game. And also, Cowboys have been very productive against the run. They've had one of the better rush defenses this year, which is surprising to say the least. It's just been their passing offense that's not done well. And I think that this could be another get-right game for them. The fact of the matter is that you look at this Panthers receiving game, Teodoro McMillan's been awesome for them. He hasn't gotten into the end zone yet, but outside of Teodoro McMillan, they haven't really had much of anything else in terms of production. You look at their defense, and I'm looking right through it. They've had 5 sacks all of this year, and I believe they've had 4 interceptions so far this year. Yes. And so the way that I'm looking at this is that if you can shut down the Panthers' run game and force Bryce Young to throw, and maybe not make him look like Joe Montana or Tom Brady, I think you'll be fine. But the fact is this is on the Cowboys to get that done. And so let's go ahead and let's actually take a look at the injury report for the Dallas Cowboys. And then we'll also talk about the injury report for the Carolina Panthers, because obviously just because I'm saying who's doing what doesn't mean they're going to be active. So far, the following Dallas Cowboys have been out and ruled out. We got Tyler Booker, of course, CeeDee Lamb, of course. Jack Sanborn is out. Miles Sanders is out for the remainder of the year, meaning that we're going to probably see Phil Maffa and Jadon Blue for the rest of the year, which is exciting, but I'm going to save that in a little bit. We'll talk about that. Gavante Turpin is out. Then looking at a couple of these other things, you did have Dante Fowler not practicing, but it was due to illness, so he'll probably play. Sam Williams came up, but he's again full go. You had a couple questionable stuff like Deron Bland with a shoulder. Kalen Carson, he was a full go in practice the entire week, so he most likely will be back on the roster. You had Trevon Diggs come up. Tyler Guyton, he's been in concussion protocol. He should be back this week. James Houston doing, let me see, he was a full go. And then Jonathan Mingo, he had a full practice on a Wednesday, but he didn't practice the rest of the week. So again, unsure. But Cowboys are in an interesting predicament with some of these things going on there. So let's go ahead. I'm actually, if you don't mind, bear with me for 1 second. I'm just taking a look at the injury report for the Panthers because I think that's important. So I'm pulling up. Let's see who we got. Okay. So here's what's going on. So would they have their cornerback, Caleb Evans? He's out. Chuba Hubbard. I saw someone in the chat say Chuba Hubbard is out, and he is. Taylor Moton, one of their tackles, is out, and Tershawn Wharton is out. Looking at the rest of this list, it's pretty much been like, it's not as bad as our injury list, but the Dallas Cowboys should be able to take care of business. The fact is that you look at what they've done offensively, that being Carolina, and you're going to most likely win this game. The only way that you don't win this game is if you let them run wild on you, you let Rico Dowdle get hot, and you continue to take that pressure off of Bryce Young. But the key thing is that we saw in the previous game that the defense was finally establishing pressure, and they were really causing problems while the Jets were able to move the ball. And I think that the thing is that the Cowboys have struggled against mobile quarterbacks, and they didn't per se struggle against, Justin Fields, despite what the stat sheet will tell you. A lot of it was towards the back end of the game. But again, you look at this Panthers team, they're just not there yet. And again, offensively, we've seen it because we've played the Panthers recently. You should be able to take care of business. I don't really have to say much more of that, but I did want to talk about this running back room because obviously we have a huge appreciation for what Javonte Williams has done because he's been fantastic this year for the Cowboys, but it's really been the backups that we've had questions about. Obviously, we've had issues with Miles Sanders, and we saw he was still productive, but I think a lot of people looked at the fumble that he had against Philly, which again, I'm not taking that away from him. But the fact is that when you look at what happened after that, everyone thinks that he was bad. I think the fact is that he was a solid backup for you. But again, you had other dudes in the wing that I think had higher potential that now they're going to get more of an opportunity. And I'm talking about Jadon Blue, Phil Maffa when he comes back. And I think that for Jadon Blue, there are a ton of people that have been wanting to see him, and he didn't have a great game versus the Jets. And again, I'm not going to take a one-game sample size over a guy that's just getting put into the offense and says, you know what, that's it. There are moments of speed that I like to see, but there really wasn't none of that. Like, there were moments where he had a couple, like maybe like one or two productive carries, but that's it. And I think with Jadon Blue, with young guys, not every single young guy is going to be an immediate impact player. And I think for Jadon Blue, the key thing is he has to understand that he has to let the game come to him. I think that him and Williams have the chance to be something that could help out the Cowboys this year, having that home run ability, that speed, but we haven't seen it yet. And I think for Jadon Blue, that's what we're trying to see, because obviously as fans, we were banking on him coming in here and being a better player than Miles Sanders. We're not asking him to be the starting running back. Obviously, Javonte Williams has been doing a fantastic job at doing that. But now it's up to the Cowboys to help Blue find ways to be productive. But also, it's up to Blue to show that, hey, you know what? You haven't been active. Now's your chance to really do that, because obviously we saw what Phil Maffa could do in the preseason. And I think that while it is just the preseason, I really like what Phil Maffa put on tape to really say that he could be running back too. But I think that you're going to need a different style of running back moving forward. And I think what's also key for getting Jadon Blue, and if you want to even throw Phil Maffa in there going, is that we want to make sure that Javonte Williams remains fresh. It is a long season, a very long season. In fact, looking at what the Cowboys, like if we look at his carries, Javonte Williams has had 79 carries through 5 weeks, and he's averaging 5.7 yards per carry. If that were to hold through the remainder of the season, that would be the highest yards per carry average by a Cowboys running back in the history of the organization with that amount of attempts. Yes, you can look it up. Higher than Emmitt Smith, higher than Zeke when he was in his prime, higher than Tony Dorsett, you name it. That is amazing stuff. He's averaging nearly 90 yards a game. Like, that's impressive stuff. And I believe he has, what, 5 rushing touchdowns? Yes, 5 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. Did they count that? Yeah, receiving touchdown. I was like looking at the stats. I'm like, I didn't see the count, but there's that. So with having a guy as productive as Javonte Williams, he's been one of the reasons why Dak Prescott has been able to play at a high level. And again, this goes to the testament of what we're seeing offensively from the Cowboys is this vision of, hey, we want to run the ball, but we want to run the ball effectively. That goes to Clayton Adams, and what he's done has been exactly what we needed to see, especially considering the fact that how banged up the offensive line is, and to still be as productive as we were is amazing. So that's where I want us to understand that while Dak Prescott is playing at a high caliber level, he has 195 pass attempts, and he's completing 71% of his passes. That's the highest in NFL history in terms of the attempts compared to the completion percentage. That's insane. Has 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's been sacked 7 times, pass rating of 101.1 throughout these 5 games. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Dak. Obviously, on the receiving end of things, George Pickens has been a godsend. Has 5 receiving touchdowns. I believe that's his career total high. And so if he gets another one, he'll break that. Jake Ferguson, he's been catching pretty much every ball thrown his way. Most of it has been the bootlegs and stuff like that, but we're seeing the yak ability come back. He's caught 3 touchdown passes this year, and this is exactly what we've been wanting to see as CeeDee Lamb has been out so far. And there are things saying that he could come back as soon as next week, but I don't really think you need to rush it. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and I hope that when he comes back, he'll be a very productive player for you. Now, the big thing is, speaking of it being a marathon and not a sprint, the Dallas Cowboys are in the mix for a postseason berth. Oh, Space, it's just October. What in the hell are you talking about? Playoffs? We just want to win some games. I understand that. However, as we're kind of getting towards the middle point of the season and we're starting to get to that point, we got to start keeping an eye out on how everything's shaping out, especially in the NFC East, because how the Cowboys go through this game is going to impact the following week against Washington. Right now, the Cowboys are in 3rd place, and the Eagles' shocking upset by the Giants to beat them in the manner that they did opens the door for the Cowboys to possibly still be in NFC East title contention. It really looked like, hey, Eagles are finding ways to win, despite the fact that I've talked with my buddy Chris over at the CEO Sports Show here on Kretschman Media, or Cowboys Beat. We've talked behind the scenes, and I've said that Philadelphia is very reminiscent of their 2023 form, where they're finding ways to win, but it's not sustainable. And we're seeing that happen in real time sooner than what happened in 2023. Now, why do I bring this up? Why is this important, Space? Why do you need it? Because the fact is that when the Cowboys were where they were at, and they were 1-2, and people were kind of saying, this is it. This team is trash, and even myself included, because it looked like that and things weren't really gelling, and the defense has been looking atrocious. The fact of the matter is that the Dallas Cowboys, even with all the crap we went through in September, still have a shot at catching the Eagles and really being in the thick of things. Now, the Eagles next week play the Vikings. Obviously, next week we play the Commanders. What's important is you win this game, you get on a win streak. You're 3-2-1. If you can go to 3-2-1 and you set up a showdown with the Commanders where you can go up, take care of business, and get to 4-2-1, you could be looking at being in first place as soon as next week. And what's important about that is it's a confidence factor. The fact that the Cowboys were at a point where, you know what, we're going through this entire situation where we're getting a new coaching staff. This defense is atrocious. The offense is still trying to figure out what it wants to do. It's important for the Cowboys to handle business, especially against Carolina, because, again, it's not like Carolina is going to roll over and die on you. I'm not saying that in the slightest, knowing how this defense is. But the main thing, if you're a Cowboys fan watching this video, and as we're archiving these as we're going through the season, the Dallas Cowboys need to continue to play better defensively. They need to be able to generate more turnovers. And on top of that, they need to be able to generate more pressure. I have no questions about the interior run game at this point. I think that we've done very well. Of course, you're not going to have every play stopped. I'm pretty sure we understand that. But I'm very much so liking with where we're at so far. Now, if you had to look at the spread and say, okay, who am I taking in the over and under? I would say that I would take the Cowboys to win this game. I would take the spread at 3.5. I think they'll win by 4, but I would take the under in this game. I don't think the Cowboys offense is going to continuously score 30 plus points a game. I don't see that happening. It's, that would be insane. But I think what makes this interesting, this opens up another question that's been coming up. Do the Cowboys buy at the trade deadline? We were having conversations of, do you sell? Do you trade assets and things like that, because you're just not where you need to be in terms of a team for this season? I would disagree. I think that if this Cowboys team, and I think the answer for me is going to come in the next 2 weeks. Obviously, the trade deadline isn't for, I think, another couple weeks. I think they pushed it back into November, and I could be wrong on that. But the thing is that if the Cowboys are playing, and this is why every single year is different. And I'm not saying different like, oh, they're going to win a championship. Different in the sense of, you might have a team that has the right things going for them. Your quarterback's playing very well. Your offense is humming. Maybe it's on the opposite. Your defense is doing well. You need one more playmaker on offense to really get you over the top. And I think for the Cowboys, they can't be afraid to use those trade assets that they have, whether it be from the Micah Parsons trade in the first round picks to acquire a player of that magnitude, maybe a Max Crosby, or I don't know, a Trey Hendrickson, whoever, right? I'm looking, actually, let me see. I want to trade for him. I want to trade for Trey Hendrickson, but, just because of his age. But I think the fact is like, my point is you're getting a player of that caliber on your defensive line, like getting a very good pass rusher to complement what you got going on there. Or maybe you go after a safety. I don't know. But the thing is that for the Cowboys, they need to be able to understand the situation for where they're at and capitalize on it. This is exactly what happened during the Mike McCarthy era, and they failed upon that, especially when you're going 12-5 3 straight years. Hey, we have a deficiency at linebacker. You don't do anything. Hey, we have a deficiency at wide receiver. Okay, you don't do anything. Hey, we have a deficiency at stopping the run. Okay, you don't fix it. But when you look at teams like, for example, the Los Angeles Rams did this perfectly in 2021, where they traded for Von Miller. They got Odell Beckham Jr. They made those additional moves to push them over the top, considering, hey, our quarterback's playing very well, despite the fact he led the league in interceptions that year. He threw 40-plus touchdowns. He's playing very well. Our offense is humming. Our defense is doing things. And you could be like, oh, well, that team's different. But the point still stands, is that if the Cowboys truly want to open up a window and they're trying to contend. You can't hold on to those assets, especially considering the fact that you don't know if Dak's going to stay upright. You don't know if Dak Prescott is going to continue playing at this level. And I think that for me, there are a couple of guys, and it may not even need to be a first round talent that you're trading for, like a Max Crosby. You can just go grab a couple dudes with your day 3 picks, and I would be satisfied. Go after another linebacker, go after a safety, go after, another edge rusher, whatever. I think that is what the Cowboys need to do. And so for me, it all comes down, like, if they lose to Carolina this upcoming week, we're having a different conversation depending on how they lose. If they lose to the Commanders, we're having a different conversation there. And if they beat the Panthers. So my point is that I'm trying to get at, and as we go through this season, guys, is that the Cowboys have to have the situational awareness of understanding where they're at and what they need to do to get where they need to go. And that's where it's at. If they hold on to the assets, that's fine. I completely understand that. I'm not asking them to trade the first round picks that you got from the Micah Parsons trade, which is, what's really funny is that James Houston has more sacks than Micah Parsons, but that's here nor there. So you look at where we're at, you just got to continue winning and let the chips fall into place. That's what I've always said every single year. You can only control with what's in front of you. Everyone, like we talked about this, what happened in 2023. Hey, you got to continue to win, let things happen outside of things. And that's what exactly happened. And I think the last topic I want to touch up on is this Dak Prescott MVP odds and how the MVP is. I hate how they've made the MVP award. And this isn't because of Dak Prescott. I've said this for years now, even outside of Dak. Like, they made it a vibes type of thing. Like, the fact is that Lamar Jackson can have a mediocre, decent season, but because his team wins enough games, he'll win MVP. But because another dude leads the league in all these passing statistics, because his team has like one less loss or a particular loss, it disqualifies him from an MVP. That's some bullshit. I'm sorry. No, apologies for my profanity, but it is. It straight up is BS. And the other thing too is that when we really think about it, the Dallas Cowboys are also in a position, right, where, like, this is where, if we want to talk about narratives, because the MVP is a narrative-driven award, the Cowboys had no expectations this year. The Cowboys were expected to finish as one of the worst teams in football. Everyone thought that Dak wasn't good enough. Everyone thought this defense was atrocious. But now that we're seeing, like, Dak has to play at this level just for them to be at a 500 level, that says a lot about him. And I would say this, and I'm going to go, and maybe this is a hot take. I think if Dak, he has to continue playing well. This doesn't mean like if he continues playing pedestrian. No, if he plays at this level and the Cowboys somehow find their way to double-digit wins this year, he will win the MVP award this year. Oh, but Space, what about the postseason? I'm not talking about the postseason yet. I'm just talking about where we're at right now. When the postseason gets here, it gets here. But I have to talk about what we're seeing in the moment, which is Dak playing football at a level we haven't seen before. And Joe Burrow last year should have been the MVP. And because his defense was so bad, and because that team was so bad, because his team didn't win enough, he didn't win the MVP award. They gave it to Josh Allen, which, again, I'm not a hater. I love what Josh Allen's been doing in Buffalo, but he didn't deserve the MVP award. That was for Lamar. Like, Lamar had a fantastic year. But again, this is why I hate how it's a vibes MVP award type thing. And also, it's just a quarterback award. Because to me, if it were up to me, I would have said that Saquon Barkley should have won MVP last year. And on top of that, there were moments where I'm like, yo, these other dudes should have won MVP. That's just my opinion, though. So again, as a Cowboys fan, it's not even a bias thing. It's the fact of we're seeing a dude that is playing at such a high level. And the other thing is that there was an odds thing coming out. Like, they had all these other dudes in front of Dak Prescott. I'm like, what is going on? And so I think that for me, the only competition, if you're a Cowboys fan that's trying to be like, okay, how does Dak win this award? I think that really the only competition that's in front of him is probably Josh Allen, and that's it. Dak has been playing at a top 5 level this season. And I don't know what it is, but the narrative around Dak Prescott has been starting to shift from, obviously the postseason stuff. I get that. But we're seeing a narrative shift where I'm like, are people finally giving Dak Prescott credit for being a good quarterback? Again, regular season, obviously. Postseason, different animal. But the fact is like people are becoming cognizant of what's going on. So I don't know. We're gonna see if this continues, but it is what it is. So let's take a couple comments here, and then I got to get going, guys. Again, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. If you are one of the 46 people watching this on either Twitter/X or on YouTube, I greatly appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell, follow, all that stuff. You want to support me further, you can hit the join button or super chat or whatever. So let's see. What's going on, my guy? If Joe Burrow had a good team last year and they won enough games, he would have been the MVP. Exactly. And that's what I hate is that they don't give it to the guy who is the most valuable player on their team. They just give it to the vibes. What's going on, Retro Scotty? I'd say trade for Devin Bush, safety. The only free safety I trade is Minkah Fitzpatrick. Well, the Dolphins aren't going to trade Minkah. They just made a trade to get him back. I wouldn't see why they would move off of him that quickly. But Devin Bush, I think, is a solid option. Again, you're just looking for dudes that can be good for you in that particular point. The question is, do you re-sign Williams or Pickens or franchise tag them? Well, you're probably... I mean, if it were up to me, you can re-sign Javonte Williams. He's not going to command a contract that's ridiculously expensive. I think that the fact is that he understands that, if I continue this production, I'm going to get a payday. But I'm looking at maybe he'll get between maybe $6 to $8 million a year, depending on guarantees, maybe 3 years. That's what I would do. Otherwise, you can just go move on. But Javonte Williams is still young, and he's shown that he's been a productive player. It's just he's been hurt, and I don't know if he'll get hurt this year, but we'll see. As for Pickens, I think you have to re-sign him because the way that you look at it, and I appreciate the question, Retro Scotty, is that once you re-sign Javonte Williams, and if you do re-sign George Pickens, your offense is set. You have all of those starters under contract for several seasons. And you can just focus on the depth at that point and just focus all of your attention to the defense, which would put the Cowboys in a position where really we're looking at this team being a very good team for quite some time. Question is, which edge rusher would you still trade for that doesn't require? I don't really know. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't know at this point because I would have to see who's productive, because to me, honestly, I think you have enough of the, edge rushers that don't require a whole lot, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But guys, that has been today's show. We'll see how things go tomorrow against the Panthers at 1:00. If you guys please make sure to do so, like, comment, subscribe, all that other stuff. And I will catch you guys next time. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.